Gavin Christopher Newsom, born October 10, 1967 in San Francisco, rose from Bay Area roots to become one of the most powerful and polarizing political figures in America. From small business entrepreneur to mayor of San Francisco, lieutenant governor, and now the 40th governor of California, Newsom's story mixes political ambition, entrepreneurial success, and headlines that keep the cameras rolling. Today, we'll take you behind the velvet rope, his early life, how he built a multi-million-dollar business empire, the homes and cars that map a luxurious life, and the controversies that have shadowed him. Let's begin at the beginning. Gavin Newsom was raised in a well-connected Northern California family. His father, William Newsom, served as a judge and lawyer. Newsom struggled with dyslexia as a child, but he found his footing in politics and business. After graduating from Santa Clara University, he launched a wine and hospitality business that would become his financial springboard. The PlumpJack Group, a collection of wineries, restaurants, hotels, and retail ventures that tied his name to California's wine country lifestyle. This mix of business and branding would follow Newsom for decades. The PlumpJack story began as a single wine shop and grew into a hospitality group with holdings in Napa and beyond. Over the years, those assets, wineries, tasting rooms, inns, became both a personal passion and a significant source of income for Newsom and his family. Recent deep dives into his private holdings show that his stake in wineries and hospitality has been substantial enough to anchor a multi-million-dollar portfolio. In fact, reporting by Forbes and other outlets has described Newsom's broader hospitality and wine ties as a core part of his wealth picture. Net worth estimates for politicians are always a mix of public records, property transactions, and private valuations. Publicly available reporting and celebrity net worth trackers have placed Newsom's net worth in the multiple millions. Most commonly cited figures range in the low tens of millions of dollars. That figure comes from a combination of his salary as governor, which is $224,020 per year as a public official, plus the value of private companies, real estate, and investments. But it's important to emphasize that much of his wealth is tied to illiquid assets, wine businesses, real estate, and hospitality brand value that are not easily converted to cash without complex sales. One of the clearest and most reported signals of Newsom's personal wealth is his real estate. In November 2024, public property records and local reporting revealed that Gavin Newsom and his family bought a high-end Bay Area home in Kentfield, Marin County, a leafy, well-heeled enclave north of San Francisco. Local coverage reported the transaction at roughly $9.1 million. The property is described as a multi-bedroom mansion with sculpted grounds, a guest house, pool and spa, and the kinds of walk-in closets that lend themselves to magazine photography. Records show the buyer as an LLC tied to Newsom's family, a common structure for high-value purchases. That $9.1 million figure is concrete and was reported in multiple Bay Area news outlets. Before the Kentfield purchase, Newsom and his family purchased several notable properties over the years, including a $3.7 million home in Fair Oaks reported in Sacramento regional coverage, and prior ownership of a Marin County residence that later sold for a higher price. As governor, Newsom has also used the California Governor's mansion in Sacramento for official duties, a reminder that public office and private wealth often share the same stage in the modern political era. When you picture a modern governor's fleet, think less vintage supercars and more high-end climate-forward SUVs. In May 2025, California's official fleet added a Rivian electric SUV as Newsom's new official vehicle, a symbolic choice for a state that champions green tech and electric vehicles. The choice of a Rivian over more traditional luxury brands is a deliberate message, though it doesn't erase the broader lifestyle image. That said, Newsom's private car collection has not been widely documented as an ostentatious fleet of Ferraris or Lamborghinis. His visible automotive choices have often echoed his public priorities: California-made innovation, sustainability, and high-tech design. Beyond bricks and bumpers, Newsom's portfolio is anchored by hospitality assets. Wineries like PlumpJack, boutique hotels, restaurants, and related ventures. These assets produce both cash flow and a brand halo, dinners with vintages, Napa Valley events, and hospitality experiences that blur personal lifestyle with private enterprise. Deep reporting from national outlets has probed the scale of these holdings and their potential valuations, and while different outlets provide different estimates, the consistent theme is that the hospitality and winery stakes form a meaningful portion of his private wealth. Public officials with substantial private holdings face two big challenges: the appearance of conflicts of interest and the practical need to separate business decisions from public policy. Newsom placed many of his assets into a blind trust or family-controlled LLCs when he took statewide office, common practice for wealthy politicians. Still, watchdogs and journalists have scrutinized his ongoing ties to wine and hospitality interests, especially when state policy intersects with the economic health of those industries. The tension between private business interests and public decision-making is a recurring theme in modern governance, and Newsom's profile is a textbook case. If there's one controversy that crystallized the clash between public messaging and private behavior, it was the French Laundry dinner in November 2020. During a time when California was under strict COVID-19 restrictions and public health messaging emphasized limiting household gatherings, photographs, and reporting, showed Newsom attending an indoor gathering at the famed French Laundry restaurant in Napa County. The optics were immediate and devastating. Critics accused the governor of violating his own guidelines, while supporters argued the dinner was within legal limits but politically tone-deaf. The episode generated national headlines, fueled opponents during the recall movement, and became a lasting image whenever Newsom's judgment was called into question. Major Bay Area outlets and national papers covered the incident in detail. The French Laundry controversy was one of several pressure points that culminated in the 2021 recall effort against Newsom. Facing a politically charged campaign, heated criticism over pandemic policy, and opponents who painted him as out of touch, Newsom survived the recall in a decisive way. Voters rejected the recall and reaffirmed him as governor. But surviving a recall is not the same as erasing political damage. The recall forced Newsom and his team to spend political capital, ramp up visibility, and answer for both policy and perception. The Los Angeles Times and other major outlets tracked the live recall coverage as it unfolded. Journalists have also examined Newsom's connections to Silicon Valley and the financial world. For instance, when Silicon Valley Bank faced crises, reporting explored whether Newsom or his businesses had exposure or benefited from policies that could be seen as favorable to wealthy donors. Investigations and commentary, from regional papers to national outlets, put a spotlight on the complicated relationship between California's political leadership and its tech money ecosystem. The lesson: proximity to powerful industries can fuel both fundraising and scrutiny. Gavin Newsom's public image blends the polished family man with the entrepreneur politician. He's married to filmmaker Jennifer Siebel Newsom, and they have 4 children. They attend high-profile cultural events, host fundraisers, and enjoy a lifestyle that includes weekend getaways in wine country. Those private moments, luxury homes, family vacations, dinners with influencers, feed both the aspirational brand and the criticism that he's out of step with average Californians struggling with housing, inflation, and cost of living pressures. For a politician, image is a second currency. And for Newsom, that currency is spent in newspapers and on cable news daily. It's crucial to separate the man from the job. Newsom's policy record includes major climate initiatives, homelessness responses, healthcare pushes, and regulation of big tech and business. As governor of the nation's largest state economy, he faces an impossible set of trade-offs, championing green tech while managing business interests tied to California's wine and hospitality sectors, advocating public health during a pandemic while undercut by private social choices that look tone-deaf. That policy lifestyle friction is central to how journalists and voters evaluate him. Critics say Newsom's wealth and business ties create conflicts and an optics problem, that his lifestyle undercuts the moral authority of his public health and economic messaging. Defenders counter that Newsom is a bona fide entrepreneur who built successful businesses, created jobs, and understands the economic levers needed to run a complex state like California. Both sides have evidence, the transactional records, property reports, public statements, and a long trail of reporting that feeds both praise and suspicion. In modern politics, the same dossier can be a resume or a rucksack of baggage, depending on your point of view. So where does that leave us? Gavin Newsom is a governor whose private wealth and entrepreneurial background are inseparable from his public life. He lives in multi-million-dollar houses, has business holdings in wineries and hospitality, and uses public office to advance statewide policy. But that same mix invites relentless scrutiny. Every dinner, every purchase, every donor can be turned into a headline. As California's economy and the political landscape evolve, Newsom's fortunes may follow suit. Will his brand of business-friendly progressivism survive more scandals and political tides? Time and the next big story will tell. If you found this deep dive useful, hit like and subscribe. We've got more investigations into the lies behind the headlines. Want a breakdown of Newsom's winery holdings or a timeline of his major controversies? Drop a comment and we'll dive in. Thanks for watching.